English Rose is it's another very personal song. It's actually just about one specific person, really. Um, it was just me acknowledging where I'd gone wrong in a relationship that I actually wanted to go really right. So, I think at the time when I was, in that place, it was a crazy time in my life, and you know, I wasn't really in that position to be in like a stable relationship. I was living in Leeds. I was at a university. You can imagine what that was like. Living in a house of lads. So, well, you know what it's like. You're living with your best mates. Like, it's the best thing in the world, but it's also can be terrible because you all just encourage each other to do silly things. Like, let's go get drunk on a Tuesday. That sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? Which it is. It's amazing, but it doesn't. It's not the best thing if you want to like be, create some stability. So English Rose was. I just had these chords. It originally was sort of like a lo-fi hip hop sort of beat that I was just playing around with. I was living up in Doncaster with a couple of my old school friends, like my best friends. Um, and I just was in the lockdown. I think last year, the first one. So we were just all doing our thing. I'd just be one's working on his business, the other's working on his merchandising and stuff like that, his designs, and then I'm just sort of sat there just working on some tunes, and I just came up with this little track, English Rose, and then sort of probably about 9 months later, I thought, I kept coming back to these chords and this music, and I thought, I really like that. I want to try and do some lyrics, and then um, I'd watched a film called As Above, So Below, which I think is sort of loosely based on a poem called The Divine Comedy, and it's about how this guy goes to save his wife, or like the love of his life. She's in hell, and he's got to go through all these layers of hell. And so I sort of like that film, the film As Above, So Below, just like it just blew me away. Like it just like the metaphors in it. I thought, it's just awesome. Um, so I wanted to sort of like make it quite like lyrically, almost quite like biblical. But it's not religious whatsoever. It's me. I'm my own judge and jury. I think we all are in our own minds. We all, I judge myself harder than anybody does. Harder than anybody else judges me. I'm my own biggest critic, and for the best and for the worst. So I sort of thought, well, what was this girl to me? Well, she was my English Rose, like what Paul Weller song about. She was that thing. That's what that was at that time, and I didn't treat it the way I should have. Like, I didn't represent myself the way I should have done. So I just sort of wanted to write a song about that, and write a song that described what me acknowledging them things, but also sort of like what my true feelings are as such. Um, so that's why I sort of came up with that. The seasons are changing. I left my English Rose out in the cold to freeze, waiting and waiting. As the days growing old, it's harder and harder to breathe. Um, and that harder and harder to breathe is for both sides, because these things are complicated. It's a way longer and more in-depth story than just that. But that's sort of like the way I approached that song. I wanted that kind of like judgment, biblical, me coming down on myself. Let everybody else off. I'm the bad guy, kicking my own ass, and then acknowledging what happened. But then also hindsight is 2020 in it, as they say. So that's sort of where that song comes from. Yeah, that's English Rose.